everybody to another episode of It's Your Life. And I was just telling Tricia, I kind of missed the daily, but we're still going to continue the weekly episodes just to keep giving you really, really good tips. Because you know what? Every single one of these speakers that I had amazing tips, had amazing insights to give you. So we are going to continue that. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mona Abderrahim Santla. I'm the owner of Mind Your Power. And at Mind Your Power, it is about your power. It is really about taking back control over what you think and how you react to the situations that people are going through at the moment. Because I always say, although you cannot change what's happening outside, you can definitely change how you behave, how you think, how you feel. You can change and take control of your life. Now, the last couple of weeks, we have spoken a lot, or the last couple of months, I should say now, we have spoken a lot on this series, It's Your Life, about the mental difficulties people were going through, anxiety, fear. We've had some laughter yoga. We've had really very many techniques to keep you alive and keep you happy. Now, many have gone through this and now are thinking back to business. Many have maybe forgotten about business, especially if you have your own business. So today, we have something different than we had. We have Tricia Evans with us tonight, and Tricia is a business coach. Now, when I say business coach, you know, there are a lot of people who say they're business coaches, but Tricia she was actually the first business coach in the UAE. She has been working in this field since more than 25 years, almost between 25 and 30 years. And she has a lot to say. She has coached many, many people, individuals, but also many business owners. Today, she will talk to you about, actually, first of all, let me tell you that wonderful quote that she sent me for the topic of today, because that really will describe what she does or what she will talk about. When fishermen can't go to sea, they repair their nets. What have you been doing if you're a business owner for the last 2 months? Have you been sitting back and waiting? What did you do? So she will talk to you about how to survive, but not only how to survive, she calls it extraordinary time, and it is an extraordinary time where, you know, in extraordinary times, people can do extraordinary things, right, if they choose to. So she will talk to you how to not only survive, but thrive in this time and really position yourself so that you can go ahead and jump out and be there when things get back to, well, normal or whatever you want to call it. So I think I've spoken enough and waited enough. Tricia, over to you. I'm very, very happy that you're here. And I am personally very, very excited to hear what you have to say. And I'm sure I will get a lot of tips out of you tonight. Welcome.
Great. Thanks, Mona, and evening, everybody. And great to be here. When Mona contacted me like a couple of weeks ago, and she told me about the series, and I've been watching it anyway and listening to some of the speakers, and she'd asked for some sort of positive tips and sort of tools to help people survive. And as she said, I'm a business coach. I've been a business coach for 26 years, and about half of the business I do is with business owners, small and medium-sized business owners, and that's about scaling up their business. And the other half is about professionals. It could be lawyers, it could be accountants, it could be coaches, and they want to go to the next level, like new job, new whatever. Now, since the coronavirus has kicked in, I'm still seeing those same sort of people, but the scale and the spectrum of the worlds, of the way they're experiencing it is amazing, really. There's some people whose businesses have collapsed completely, just stopped dead. There's other people who've lost their jobs. So that's one end of the spectrum. And life is very scary, I guess, for them. The other end of the spectrum, and there's a lot of people there, are people who are loving the time to stop. loving the time to stop and think and rethink, reimagine, dream. Just the world stops still, really. And so I've worked with a whole range of people. And what I did, I've developed a series of posts to social media called Lockdown Tips. And I'm amazed that they've actually gone, I mean, not viral, that's a bit too extreme, but they're being shared all over the internet, and it's really hit a chord. And what I want to do is use a couple of them to talk through some of the key things, some of the key patterns, some of the key learning points, really, that have come out from my recent coaching. So I'm just going to put sort of slides up, just a couple of slides. It's not a big thing. The title here, I've called Survive and Thrive. For me, the really, really important bit is and thrive there, because surviving is one level, and that's your base level. But this, I think, for the rest of our lives, we will remember 2020. And this is the most extraordinary time. It is a fantastic opportunity to do something different with our lives. And I do see an awful lot of people who are just so stuck, they're finding it difficult to move. And so what I'm focusing on is a shift, not only survive, but really thrive. So I want to talk you through this first tip. Now, I'm known as the flip chart queen. I draw flip charts. And when I'm working with people, I get sort of a big picture and get perspective. This was the 10th tip that I came up with, that was literally themes and patterns. And it's about making conscious choices. And the really key word is conscious. When I meet with people, I said before, there's a spectrum. And if you can think of that as sort of base 1 people, are people who are massively, massively overwhelmed. Base 2 people, are they sort of, okay, they're sort of not quite sure what's happened, a bit uncertain, but, you know, they're getting there. And base 3 people are the people who think, wow, this is amazing. And some of the tips that come, I mean, if you're at base 1 and feeling overwhelmed, it is all about reducing that overwhelm, and that lovely airline phrase, put your own oxygen mask on. It's all about that. And I think without exception, when I meet someone who are overwhelmed, they spend half their life watching the news. And I just think, turn it off. Literally, turn it off. You will never hear good stuff on the news at the moment. So turn it off. I also find that they tend to be people who are quite anxious anyway. So, and what then happens when you're extra anxious, your sleep goes. So it's all about, okay, how do you get some rest? How do you get relaxation? Mona's had a load of other speakers on, talking about everything from meditation to mindfulness to a whole range of techniques like that. But it's trying to just get that calm and stop that panic and stop the overwhelm. Because if you're in overwhelm mode, you will never really move beyond it. And it's so important to actually focus all your effort in moving away. And one great thing, several clients had said the thing that really they loved was watching things that make you laugh. Or, you know, because actually, if you're in overwhelm, it's a fairly joyless place to be. You know, it really is, it's a sad place to be. And so doing something that makes you feel good. So base 1, it's just looking after yourself, reduce that overwhelm. Now, once you've sort of moved beyond that, or you're into sort of what I call base 2, I do find people get very anxious about the future, and they worry about the past and what's gone and what they've lost, and they worry about what's next. And quite frankly, we can't change the past now, and we definitely don't know what the heck's coming up fully in the future. So it's about getting some certainty in your life and controlling the stuff you can control. So what clients definitely have found, and it's establishing a routine. Now, if it's a business, for example, it's about thinking, right, what are we going to focus on? What are the elements we need? For a lot of people, it's exercise. For me, that's critical. If my exercise is in place, other things work. You know, if the exercise isn't in place, then it falls apart. So it's establishing that simple daily routine. And I think that's been especially important when people have got teams working for them, because it's really important to have that routine so that people know sort of what to expect on a day-to-day basis. So that works equally effectively if you're parents at home with kids, to have a routine during the day. Because I had some clients who were just frantic because they have little kids who are interrupting them all day long. And then once they started to build a routine so that they carved out some kid-free time, things took on a life of their own and they were much better. But I think staying in the present, really present, and that's all about mindfulness, it's all about focus, it's all about now, it's all about controlling what you can control. And it's also about connecting to people. And I think for me, one of the most wonderful things about this stage is that in general, people's hearts are much more open than they've ever been. And I think, we really are in this together. Now that's the sort of second stage, isn't it? Now, a lot of people I'm working with are just loving this. And I'm in that camp as well. Loving the space, loving the time, loving the inspiration. I can't believe the amount of stuff that's on the internet to inspire like crazy. So I think just surround yourself with inspiration. Even simple things like, I was with one client who when they were allowed to go in the office, they deliberately changed everything round. I think next week in Dubai, some people are allowed to go back and they're deliberately going to move. Well, they've got to move because of the physical distancing, but just shifting furniture or pictures or charts, it rattles your brain a bit. And connecting with people who inspire you like crazy. Again, if I find when I'm working with people who are down in the dumps or gloomy, I ask them who they spend their time with and ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, are they very negative or very positive? And invariably they're spending time with the negative people. So it's really important to get some new energy, outward looking energy, inspirational energy. And just, there's so much stuff for free at the moment. We can watch, listen, read, and it just makes you feel fantastic. So that is something that's come out of all the sort of the business stuff I'm done at the moment, because you can be the best manager on the planet, but if you haven't got your acting gear, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're anxious and all over the place, nothing happens, nothing works. It's just, just a bit of a disaster. So this is sort of the conscious choices in how you spend your time. And there is always, always, always a choice, always. And, if people are feeling bad, there are always things that can do better. The second lockdown tip, which I think, and this comes from dealing, coaching several people in the last sort of 6 weeks. Reminders for us all, I tell you what, top left, I think we all need to remember this is really not affecting us all equally. I think you've heard lots of quotes like I've heard, oh, we're all in the same storm, and we are, but we're facing it very differently. I live on my own, for example, and so my life has been very calm compared to a family with 4 or 5 kids. But equally, I have got that calm to focus, whereas a family of 4 or 5 kids must be a bit manic to try and get the homeschooling and everything else done. So it's not affecting everyone equally. And I think it's really important that we remember that, because it's a very, very, very different experience for people. And I find with managers at first, when they were starting like Zoom calls with their teams, it was all about business as usual and deadlines and what are we doing? And then once they started to actually engage the heart and sort of say, you know what, how are you coping? What's going on? And I think what's really good about Zoom is you see a little bit of people's worlds in the, in the pictures they see. And I think I've seen a real shift in some managers, and I hope it's going to stay, because it's so powerful. They're really reaching out to people in a very, very different way. But I also think in terms of reaching out and helping someone who's struggling, it really helps. There's quite a few people who are a bit low and a bit depressed. Without exception, when I talk to them, it's all about them. And they're not focused on out there. They're not focused on doing things for other people. And once you reach out and help somebody who's not doing so well, it shifts the energy. It shifts something in your head, and it's amazing. The top right thing, I think, a powerful, powerful message for us all. We are like viruses ourselves. Our energy is totally contagious. So if you are a gloom, doom, death and destruction merchant, you will be passing that negative stuff onto every single person you meet. Your body language will say it. Your words will say it. If you're a parent, your kids will know it. If you're panicking as a parent, you're teaching your kids that you panic when things happen. You know, whereas if you are positive or constructive, or say we haven't got all the answers yet, but let's work together and figure it out, that energy is contagious too. And that's been particularly important for people with teams, you know, in business, because for the first couple of weeks, it was all over the place. And none of us knew how to use Zoom. None of us knew how to just connect properly with other people. But now it's starting to get much more important. So the energy is huge. And so next one down, action changes things. I think, especially if life feels overwhelming, doing, even if it's a small thing every day that moves you forward. And it can be very small. It can be an email. It can be checking out on someone, checking up on someone. It can be a kindness call, you know, seeing how somebody is. It can be sorting out a drawer at home. It can be, there's something about sorting out as well. It's not just a physical thing. It shifts something in your brain. There's a sort of thing, if I'm in control of a drawer, I can be in control of bigger things. And so we've definitely done that with teams in the past, where we've had a massive office cleanup, and it's amazing how it's just kick-started something. So I always like to get people thinking about a progress day. What's the progress you're making that day? And the next one, in terms of the path to recovery, is a marathon, not a sprint. There were some very tired people at the beginning of this, but everyone talks about getting back to normal. It's not getting back to normal. It never will. It will never go back to where we were before. And this is a long haul thing. Even if they're opening up places now, anywhere in the world, it's not normal to walk around with masks on. It's not normal to sit 2 meters away from people. So it's a long-term thing. And I think in exactly the same way you train for a match or run a marathon, you pace yourself and you build up bit by bit. You don't do this mega sprint and then collapse, you know, whatever. So it really is about protecting your energy and staying very focused on long-term goals. And that's the first thing I do with anyone I work with. I say, well, what are you aiming at? What is the goal? What are you trying to do? Where would you like to be? And because if you write it down and then literally very consciously aim for it, it's just such a powerful thing to do. Next one down, when life overwhelms you, do something simple. So many people, I see people leap as well from overwhelm to in gear, overwhelmed to in gear, and moving backwards and forwards. And again, it's about the action, but something constructive, and it can be quite small. You know, if I'm at home, for example, and I needed to think, or my brain wasn't straight, I might do some washing or something simple, or again, clearing out or sorting things, or just something very, very easy that's not hard. And it's a quick win. And there's one particular client who is a real overwhelmed merchant. And what she does all the time, she aims to have about 20 quick wins a day, literally, you know, 2 or 3 minute jobs. And it's amazing how she's progressed. And the point there, don't think you have to cope alone. I'm quite surprised how many people don't know the help that is available. For businesses, I mean, some of them need to literally just talk to banks, talk to colleagues, talk to if they're paying for insurance, to say, look, we're in the middle of the most outrageous, crazy time we have ever lived through. You know, can we negotiate? Can we do installments? Can we just negotiate? And several of my clients have had great success, which has taken huge pressure off them to do that. Maybe a freeze on payments, or a lower payment, or installment payments. And then just thinking, you know, don't think you have to cope alone. There is so much help around. There are a lot of people who are good at things that we need to be good at. And there's a lot of, it could be a Facebook group. I mean, just being very parochial, we have one in Ras Al Khaimah. There's, you know, RAC Ladies group, for example, and there's a RAC Business group. And I'm a coach, so I'm a member of a series of groups for coaches. And they are incredibly useful to just, if you've got a problem, post the problem. And, you know, it's a problem shared. And it's such a simple thing to do, but a very, very powerful thing, because it's a lonely place to be if you're struggling. Very lonely place. And the more you talk to people, you realize that actually we are in the same boat, and everybody's struggling at different things. But probably for me, the most important thing really, I do think how we live and work has changed for good. But the exciting thing about that is we are literally free to do things differently. The old rules literally don't apply. And it's the whole idea of getting comfortable with change that just doesn't stop. And I know in a business context, we've all talked about that for years. And you'll see on people's LinkedIn profiles, they'll all talk about, oh, good with change and blah, blah, blah. Most of us aren't, actually. We're not very good at that. But it's about sort of almost getting more and more comfortable now with not having all the answers and not knowing. But this is the time to literally reimagine, literally breathe, literally think, well, okay, like using me as an example, on the 8th of March this year, every single piece of business I had booked in for March and April cancelled. Every single piece. Me and the rest of the world. And I thought, oh my gosh, what the heck's going to happen now? And for about 3 weeks, it was like, take a big deep breath and help, you know, whatever. But then you take a big deep breath, you stop and think, okay, I can't now go and visit those clients. Right, they still have the same need for person, so I've now taken my business online. And then actually, and I'm enjoying it so much, I think I might never need to leave my home again. You know, but not quite. But it's, you suddenly realise when you're forced to, you think about different things. Now, if you're clear what you're aiming at, it's then quite easy to start to think, okay, how else can I do that? You know, if you're, I mean, look at all the schools, all the teachers who, if you'd asked them a few months ago, could you do everything online? The answer would have been absolutely not. And when you're forced to, isn't it just amazing what we do? Is it perfect? No. Are they doing it? Yes. Is it filling some of the needs? Yes. And will it evolve? Yes. And I think when we're forced with the back against the wall, it's amazing how creative we can be. And I think that's important. So I love this thing because in a business context, this is the single thing that I work with most with clients now. Say, how we live and work has changed for good. What do you want it to look like? What's your dream, you know? What would be your dream way to live and earn money? What would be your dream way to spend time with your family? This has probably been a fabulous time for a lot of people with kids. And, you know, to spend time with them. And I'm a bit sad, really, when you read lots of Facebook groups of people not very happy for spending time with their kids. And I think there's sort of missing something there, that because this time will go soon, it'll move on, it'll move beyond. But that's how we live and work has changed absolutely, you know, for good. Now, I think there's one common thing about all of this stuff, like these charts I do, the reason I do the lockdown tips, and it's get perspective. Because when you're just yourself, we all have a view. And the more you can get perspective and see how different people do things, how different businesses work, what different offices look like, what different Zoom things look like, how people use Zoom, well or not. And once you start to get in the habit of saying, right, what can I learn from this? What's good for them? You know, what's good about that? What's not good about that? What can I learn? What should I never do? Once you start getting into that mode, it just gives you a different perspective, a completely different perspective. And I think the people who are struggling and the people who are the least effective in business are those who are staying the same. So it's sort of almost a final thing. It's sort of food for thought, I hope, really. But it's these words: reimagine, reinvent. You do not have to do things the same ever. And at one level, that's scary. At another level, it's blooming brilliant, you know. And I am personally loving the time to reinvent. A lot of my clients, some are zooming into it, literally zooming, and others are sort of struggling with it and a bit grappling with it, and sort of, but slowly thinking, okay. I mean, around us, for example, I feel very sorry for businesses like restaurants. It must be a killer to be sort of half open and do deliveries, and you know, their cash flow must be dire, you know, whatever. There's certain businesses like airlines which will never ever be the same again. But my goodness, the ones that will survive would be the ones that really are creative and really rethink and really think, how can we help people move to that next level? So it's funny, my tagline has been for years, be successful on purpose. And that's, don't guess, don't faff around, don't do the same old stuff if it's not working. It's about stop, think, focus. And I mean, I've always said that, but now we've got this mega opportunity to stop and to think and to focus. So that was just a few ideas from the lockdown tips. But if you remember nothing else from this whole thing, it's perspective. Get some perspective. The more perspective you get on any situation, the more you'll be able to cope, the more you'll be able to move on, and the better you'll feel about life, business, and definitely the better boss you'll be in the business terms. So there you go, thoughts from me, Mona.
Great. Thank you, Tricia. Lots of good tips. And for everybody who is watching either now on Facebook and the ones here, just go on to Tricia's page and look at all the lockdown charts that she has been doing. I've been following you, Tricia, since a couple of weeks, and I've been seeing, do you do once a week, or what did you do?
About once or twice a week, and the recent series has been about, it's called Help, I've Lost My Job. And there's a series of 3 of them. And, the first one is about, literally, it's about, reflect what I've just, the chart I showed before. Mm-hmm. It's about, you don't go applying to jobs now while you're still in shell shock mode. So there's things you can do to get yourself centered, grounded, and just get your breathing back to normal, whatever. And then the second on the Help, I've Lost My Job was all about get positioned. So that was sort out your LinkedIn profile, get your CV up to speed. And there was a whole load of tips there. And the third one was about get moving and get acting, who to connect with, what sort of things. And then I've done 2 whole lockdown tips on LinkedIn, because for anybody in the business world, LinkedIn is where people hang out. It is, if you haven't got a decent profile on LinkedIn, you should have. If you haven't got a decent profile on LinkedIn, you are probably the world's best kept secret. That is where, if you're looking for a new job, the who's who of recruitment hang out on LinkedIn. So, sort of, you need to be there. And it's not about me, and guess what, more me. It's about what problems you solve for people. This isn't about, gosh, look how many degrees I've got. Look what amazing work experience I've got. This is about, what do people get when they get you? So say if you've got 2 people who are, say, chief finance officers, you might have one who's just, quite frankly, just a number puncher who does what they're told. And you might have another who provides the sort of figures that are a total enabler for a business. Now, who's more employable? I would have thought it's a no-brainer. So you need the person who's going to enable a business. And I think that's with LinkedIn, it's the tips I've given, the lockdown tips there, are very much shows you the things that you need to focus on. It's not a massive task, but you need to get your brain in gear to do it, and it will stand you in good stead forever. So the tips are totally practical. All these lockdown tips and the things I've said today, they come straight out from clients I'm working with now. It's real. It helps people move forwards. As I say, my tagline is be successful on purpose, do it deliberately. So you've got to decide roughly what you're aiming for, and then take it from there. So yeah, check them out. Check them out on LinkedIn. If we're not connected already, connect. There's a whole lovely life on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, but my clients generally hang out on LinkedIn, so that's where I focus. It's a Facebook for professionals.
Yeah, and a lot of people are hanging out there, of course, and have more time. Yeah, because even though people say we don't have time, especially people, I heard many people say that who have children at home, they say, oh, running out of time. But if you actually think about it, you have more time because you don't have the back and forth driving. You actually have more time. You just need to juggle your time differently and handle it differently. And so many people are on LinkedIn and are on social media. And isn't that interesting that, you were talking about change. And I think this is so fascinating because many people don't realize change until it's a massive change. But there was change all the time already, all these years that we passed. I mean, look at just social media that you're talking about now. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, social media was nothing, non-existent basically. And now it is, you are, as a business coach, you are telling everybody to be on social media. Yeah. So, it's a total shift and change in mentality, but because it came slowly, nobody actually, or many people didn't realize it, in small steps. And now that there is a big change, people are suffering or not able to cope. But if you think about it, like you said, change happens all the time, and make change your friend. Just go with it, and then you'll be able to.
Absolutely. And actually, one other thing I just thought about, especially with social media, it is a fantastic way for introverts to network without actually having to meet people. And I've got so many clients who are very private and very introvert, and they hate networking events with a passion. But oh my goodness, they're fantastic on LinkedIn. And you can sit in the safety and comfort of your own home, and you're networking. It's great. So it could be very, very powerful, especially for introverts.
Yeah. There are many, many advantages if we look at them and if we search for them and really recognize them.
There are loads, absolutely loads.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Tricia. Really valuable information that you have there. Not only what you showed us today, but as I said, and you pointed out, all these slides, all these, they're not slides actually. They are, you actually do flip charts, right? You write them, yeah. So all of these flip charts are all on LinkedIn and Facebook. So please go and look at them. They are, Tricia is tagged everywhere, so you'll find her. And do we have any questions or any comments to Tricia, or does anyone have something they want to say to her? I think it was very clear and so nicely put on that flip chart that it was also visual and, understandable. So I think everybody will enjoy it later on. Maybe Louis is saying very clear. Thank you, Louis. Okay, Tricia, then I think I will let you go again.
Okay, and thanks again for inviting me. And, I hope that was useful for people. And it'd be great if I had a few more connections.
You know what? If someone says that was not useful, it's in their own mind, because I think every single person that says something, and even in a casual, I always say in trainings, every single conversation, if you do want to learn from it, you can. Yeah, from every single person. And like you said also, the perspective is different. Yeah, even if you think similarly, but then you see it differently, you can always learn from other people, from other points of view. So really, Steve, thank you. Excellent points. Karen is saying really clear and concise. Thank you so much for your comments also. And I hope, I'm sure here we're getting more. We're getting Beryl on Facebook. We have a Facebook Live here. We're getting information, great information. Tricia, good to see you. Thank you again, Tricia. And for everybody else, thank you for being on the call, or thank you for being on Facebook. For those of you who have enjoyed this and want to hear more of other speakers, please do go to my website, which is mindyourpower.org. And then you just go to It's Your Life, all speakers, and you can see all the replays of every single one of the speakers. And there were some really, really amazing ones and really good tips. Some of them you might probably know the topic, but as we just said, seeing it differently, hearing it differently is always a good thing. We've had many interactive sessions, whether it was breathing or laughing or yoga, or we had scientific talks. So if you would like to go to my website, as I said, mindyourpower.org, It's Your Life, all speakers, and listen to all these speakers. And we are continuing. We are continuing this series for not Corona, because that's not what's going to limit us or not, but we're just going to continue indefinitely. Yeah, that's all I can say for today. If you would like to speak in my series, please send me an email to mona@mindyourpower.org, MONA@mindyourpower.org, because again, I believe everybody has something to say, every single person on this earth. And now all I can do is really thank you again, Tricia. It was fabulous. It was really, really many tips, valuable tips for everybody, whether in business or even looking for a job. And again, thanks to everybody else, and goodbye. Have a great evening, everybody.
Okay, bye.